Coming fresh off the heels of Crunchyroll deciding to recast its leading role of Mob in the Mob Psycho 100 dub, we have more potentially bad news when it comes to voice actors and them earning what they should. Bayonetta 3 was announced by Nintendo in December 2017, a fan-favorite action-adventure game developed by PlatinumGames, co-founded by Shinji Mikami, Atsushi Inaba, and the very notable Hideki Kamiya. The game was officially revealed many years later in September 2021, but shortly before that unveiling, the English voice actor for Bayonetta, Hellena Taylor, expressed some level of doubt that she would be able to reprise her role as the voice of Bayonetta, the game's primary character. She didn't really get into the nitty-gritty, and most people didn't even notice this tweet she made about it as it was in response to someone else. A month later, however, Hideki Kamiya in an interview said that Hellena Taylor would be replaced as the voice of Bayonetta by someone else, citing multiple overlapping issues as the cause of the recasting. As we learned from Crunchyroll this month, however, it's never that simple, is it? Hellena then got on Twitter and went on about the supposed true reason she was recast. There were no availability issues at all, but PlatinumGames allegedly lowballed her pay to reprise a fan-favorite role as the main character of an alleged $500 million franchise.
Bayonetta franchise made an approximated $450 million. That's not including merchandise. As an actor, I trained for a total of 7.5 years. And what did they think this was worth? The final offer to do the whole game as a buyout, a flat rate, was $4,000 US.
She said that she was offered less than $4,000 for all of her work in the game, and when she wasn't happy with that, it was bumped to just $4,000. The issue is that this doesn't sound too unlikely, something we learned with people who worked on wildly popular anime films, where dubbing companies got away with paying people who voice acted in their successful anime dub films a mere $150. And now apparently, PlatinumGames refuses to give a living wage to an extremely seasoned actor whose performance is extremely intertwined with the Bayonetta property and character. Sean Chipluck, someone with tons of voice acting experience, was paid $2,000 to $3,000 overall for his work on Breath of the Wild, a game where he voiced 3 separate characters, and of course by the massive titan known as Nintendo, who can definitely afford to pay their VAs more. He also goes on to state that he made more money for doing 2 entire lines in Detective Pikachu, as films and television get royalties. His 2 off-screen lines in Detective Pikachu made him more money than all the work he did on Breath of the Wild, a AAA game developed by Nintendo that sold over 27 million units, as royalties in the gaming industry almost never happen despite being a multi-billion-dollar industry similar to the film and television industries that do reruns of syndicated media, allowing actors to get small cuts from those reruns. Voice work in anime and gaming industries pays insultingly little, and this is something Hellena Taylor talks about in her posts on Twitter.
Depression and anxiety, I worried that I was going to be on the streets. That terrified me so much that once I was suicidal.
She was worried she was going to be on the streets, and said the thought of how hard she was getting wrung out by the industry made her almost resort to taking her own life. In the same videos, she said she is not afraid of the non-disclosure agreement, because she can't even afford to run a car. What are they going to do, take her clothes? Her desperation became so much that she personally wrote to Hideki, the aforementioned co-founder of PlatinumGames and the executive director of the Bayonetta games. She claimed he acknowledged her importance to the role and how much it would mean to fans, but the offer would not budge from $4,000. PlatinumGames had not officially responded to her post at the time. However, Hideki had, attempting to make himself sound tough by posting, "sad and deplorable about the attitude of untruth. That's all I can tell now. By the way, beware of my rules." This is in reference to his seemingly fierce hatred of foreigners, calling them insects and blocking anybody who interacts with him that doesn't speak Japanese. Hideki is definitely an asshole on Twitter, and his behavior on the platform did not lead people to be very charitable to his side of the situation. He of course was met with a massive wave of being mocked online for being an internet tough guy. Hideki would then proceed to talk about blocking people for the next hour, until he tweets, "I warned you," and then in an impressive display of masculinity and assertiveness, would promptly deactivate his Twitter account. He would reactivate later that same day, but he hadn't really said anything besides to not interact with him or he'll block you. Hideki was subject to a massive amount of internet backlash, and it begs the question, is there more to this story than meets the eye? Fans immediately began to speculate the reasons as to why PlatinumGames might have possibly lowballed Hellena. Perhaps they offered her such a low payment because they wanted her off the team, and this was their way of getting rid of her without firing her, but why? People then began to poke holes in her statement, first attacking her claim that Bayonetta had made $450 million in sales, not including merchandise. Bayonetta 1 sold around 1.35 million units, which at $60 would be about 81 million. Bayonetta 2 did not do better. It in fact did far worse, selling only 1 million copies and at a $60 price point grossing another 60 million, far away from the alleged $500 million franchise statement, but of course these numbers are probably inaccurate to the actual numbers. To be frank though, if that is the only incorrect part of her statement, it doesn't really undermine the message she's ultimately delivering that voice actors deserve more than they're getting. Fans would later then attack her credibility further online by bringing up some pretty garbage political opinions she has. But the thing is, activism to improve people's lives shouldn't end as soon as we find out that people have dumb opinions. If we did that, we would pretty much never make any progress whatsoever because, from somebody else's point of view, you probably have dumb opinions. If the people bringing these claims to light actually cared about the political beliefs they brought up, they wouldn't wait until an advantageous moment to do so, but instead do it when they found them. Just like poking a hole in her claim about the series' profitability, this too does not really damage her overall statement. We just now know that she believes dumb things. Many people also took issue with Hellena using her platform to speak out about the possible shafting by PlatinumGames to openly attack her replacement
She
VA.
has no right to say she is the voice of Bayonetta. I created that voice. She has no right to sign merchandise as Bayonetta. Any more than I have the right to sign as Eva Green, even though I was her parrot on the video game The Golden Compass. That portrayal is hers and hers alone.
I have not mentioned who replaced her up until now because I didn't really think it mattered when I was writing, but Jennifer Hale replaced Hellena. And I don't think that she did anything wrong by doing so. These people need work to survive, and as long as they aren't actively undermining negotiations, there's nothing inherently wrong with taking her place, especially with someone like Jennifer Hale, which Ben Diskin explains has a long history supporting worker and actor benefits, and I will link his thread in the description below. Potentially misleading profit figures, some dug-up tweets, and her borderline attacking the new actor. None of these things, in my opinion, still undermine what she is fighting for. A lot of people have viewed this situation as black and white, stripping any and all nuance from it. You don't have to like Hellena or the way she has conducted herself to support the overall message that voice actors deserve more pay. Where things get more complicated, however, is when gaming journalists begin to dig into the situation, with extremely trustworthy people like Jason Schreier getting involved. According to Bloomberg, Hellena wasn't offered just $4,000 for her time, which, if it's anything like Bayonetta 1, would be 16 hours of work or $250 an hour. What they claim she was offered was $3,000 to $4,000 a session for 5 total sessions, for a total of $15,000 to $20,000. This in itself is a stark difference from Helena's side of the story. The company also said she wasn't asking for a little pay raise, but instead asked for a 6-figure fee alongside residuals. Again, a far cry from what Hellena had spoken about in her Twitter videos. This is all information posted by Bloomberg, which was then corroborated by Video Games Chronicle, stating that the session pay would be a significant increase over her pay for Bayonetta 2. Hellena has responded to these claims posted by VGC and Bloomberg, stating they are absolute lies, and that PlatinumGames was trying to save their ass and the game. I'm unsure how the discrepancy came to be in Helena's videos and Bloomberg's research, especially considering both VGC and Bloomberg claim to have seen documentation of these statements. One said 4K flat and the other said 4K per session, which is a huge difference in the two stories, and one could argue 15 to 20,000 to be the face of the game that will make millions is still far too low, but most of the nuances of this conversation will be lost on social media, especially due to Helena's potential dishonesty. A few days later, Hellena would go on Twitter to confirm Bloomberg's reporting that she was in fact offered $10,000 initially, which was bumped to $15,000 after speaking personally with Hideki. She does, however, reject the notion that she was offered $4,000 per session, and after negotiations fell apart, she was offered just $4,000 as a flat fee to make a cameo in the game. The story about the cameo seems to check out. However, the way she framed her Twitter videos is at best disingenuous, intentionally shying away from the full story to frame herself in a better light. She also reuses the same claim that the Bayonetta franchise has made upwards of $450 million, something that Jason Schreier also calls a fictional and frankly absurd figure. What her framing of the situation does is give anti-union people online tons and tons of ammo for any single time an issue like this pops up again. Imagine if this Bayonetta thing happened before the Mob Psycho incident. People would have been calling Kyle McCarley a liar before Crunchyroll made any statement confirming what had happened. Online discourse surrounding working conditions for voice actors has been essentially poisoned for years to come. Another unfortunate loss in the muddiness of both statements will be the conversation about residuals, something that SAG-AFTRA have been fighting for quite some time, even going on their longest strike in history over it. It ultimately did not succeed, but they did get an improved contract at the very least. There should be a conversation once the dust settles about how everyone who contributes to bringing these pieces of entertainment and art to life should be entitled to the fruits of its success, rather than the surplus being given to the people at the top, something we see regularly from companies like Blizzard. People will hear big numbers like 15,000 to be a voice actor for a video game, and assume you're rolling up to the office 9 to 5 and making millions a year, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Voice acting work is sporadic at best, some people working once a week or even less than that, and not every voice actor is working in video games where the money is quite a bit higher, but some people are making $75 an hour in the anime industry, something I talked about in a previous video. Popular voice actors like Sarah Sakura say people might only be making $20,000 to $30,000 a year despite working full-time in the anime industry. $250 an hour sounds big until you realize this isn't office worker hours, but rather freelancer rates, and in an industry with a projected revenue of $197 billion. People don't do voice acting just for pay, but they do it to bring stories they love to the screen, to be a part of the world, or as Sean Chiplock puts it, to hear himself in genres that he already enjoys, and to interact with entire communities to hear how games have impacted you. Those are all their own rewards alongside the pay. Instead of talking about the horrendous pay rates some voice actors face and the lack of residuals for not just voice actors but entire teams of people that turn art into reality, we will now see people argue about how one person or another is a liar. Whether Hellena lied or misrepresented the situation or misremembered or misunderstood or is actually correct, we should still be talking about how we can do more for the people in that industry, and use the momentum of events like the Mob Psycho 100 situation to further that goal. At the time of writing, PlatinumGames has only put out one statement, and that was in pure support of Jennifer Hale, and the people who have helped contribute to the Bayonetta franchise, asking for people to please refrain from any disparaging comments aimed at Jennifer Hale, as they stand by everything she has said in her statements. Always remember to hear the full story before coming to your own conclusion, and recognize that people are capable of intentionally and unintentionally misrepresenting a story. I myself am always inclined to stand by the worker in these situations, as long as the worker is telling nothing but the truth, and I totally understand why people were quick to jump to Helena's side uncritically once there was the potential of yet another story of worker mistreatment. What we can all unite on in a situation like this is that Hideki Kamiya might be the least capable person when it comes to any form of PR ever. People are going to use this situation as a way to fight back for any future campaigns for better VA working conditions, citing Hellena Taylor as an example of how they're all lying or something absurd. The best we could try to do is not let people get away with that kind of thing, citing that the real numbers that Hellena was offered are still too low for her role in the game. Thank you for watching. I wanted to make kind of a follow-up video to the Mob Psycho situation, so if you want more videos like this, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for the funny YouTube algorithm. You can also follow me down on Twitter below, where I am objectively correct at all times, and you can also join my Discord where we talk about My Hero Academia, ReZero, Jujutsu Kaisen, and stuff like that. You can also become a YouTube member, which gets you a few cool benefits like a Discord role, behind-the-scenes content, and some other stuff like that. Thanks for watching. See ya.